Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes because we have more people joining that had registered, but otherwise we'll get started in a couple of minutes and people can join when they arrive. Thanks for joining us tonight. Okay, I think we'll get started. Just in the interest of time, we have an hour. And thank you so much for giving of your time to join us for this hour. My name is Anne, and I've been with Strong Minds, Strong Kids for many years as the lead trainer. I am a mother, 3 boys, and a grandchild about to be born any day. Not anyone in school at this point. So I certainly want to acknowledge all that you're going through as parents. And I think we have some educators on the line with school starting in the next couple of weeks. We always start with our land acknowledgement. The Strong Minds, Strong Kids Psychology Canada office is located on sacred land that has been a site of human activity for over 15,000 years. This land is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of New Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Wendat, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We acknowledge that the City of Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We acknowledge these nations and any other recorded or unrecorded First Peoples who cared for the land as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land named Tkaronto, where the trees meet the water, or the gathering place. As settlers, we entered into an agreement to share this land equitably. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historical importance of Indigenous peoples must also be clearly and overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. We are grateful for the opportunity to work with communities and on this territory. As we begin our night tonight, we want to share a little bit about Strong Minds, Strong Kids, and we have this very brief video that speaks to who we are as we step into the preventative aspects of creating resilient children and building their mental health. So let's watch this brief video.
They tell us to be strong, to stand up for what we believe is right, to chase our dreams, to be exactly who we want to be, without settling for less, without fear, without that voice in the back of our heads saying we're not good enough. They tell us to be strong-minded, but they don't tell us how to build a strong mind. Thankfully for us, Strong Minds, Strong Kids is there to help. They offer psychology-based, evidence-informed programs, tools, and resources that could help me develop the mental strength I need to face all the ups and downs in life, because they believe that we're the future. They believe that the tallest towers have the strongest foundations.
We at Strong Minds, Strong Kids have a website that is full of some terrific information that you can go to. Most of it is downloadable and accessible for free. We also have programs that we offer. It starts with our Make the Connection, which is for our 0 to 3-year-olds. It's all about building secure attachments and healthy relationships. We move to our Kids Have Stress Too, which is for our preschoolers up to grade 6, and stress lessons for grade 7 to 12. And we have our adult program for us as adults called Stress Strategies to help to manage our stress. All of it is with the intention of building healthy relationships and to find ways of building our coping strategies to lead a resilient life. So as we step into our evening tonight, which is really about looking at the transition back to school in a couple weeks, I want us to keep in mind that a child's ability to cope with stress has consequences for physical and emotional health throughout life. And what we have learned over these months through COVID is the resilience that can come during times of adversity. And to build that resilience, we need to have stress and support. And that's where you, as adults in your young children's life, are such a support to them. I want you to take a moment. I want you to raise your hand, put it on your back, and I want you to pat your back and applaud yourself for all the work that you have done to get to this point 18 months later, as you have navigated through the times, as you have found those family moments, as you have learned so much about technology and our child's development. But know that you have been part of such a historical moment, and you have made it to this point, and you will continue to thrive as the days and weeks ahead unfold. I'd like to get to know you a little bit. And so Victoria, who is behind the scenes and helps to keep my stress, a lid on my stress, she will bring up the polls. She manages all the slides and videos. So just to hear who you are, what capacity are you joining us? Are you a professional that works with children? Are you a parent, or are you both? What I love about the work that we do at Strong Minds, Strong Kids, that the concepts, the strategies can apply to us of all different ages, whether that be young children or adults, and how we can bring that in to manage our lives. So I hope today you too will bring strategies that can be helpful for you as you are involved with your children. So many of you are both, and then we have not quite an equal split of professionals and parents. So that's great to know. Let's bring our next poll up, if we could, please, Victoria. Where are you joining us from? We're a national organization in this wonderful country of ours. And so we have opened up our webinars to people across the country. As you're filling that out, I do want to let you know that on our website, we have a list of webinars that have been given since the past 18 months is when we really ramped them up, but certainly started before that as well. And you can download them. They're about 45 minutes to an hour and of different subject areas. So most are in Ontario and Quebec, and you are sweltering like we all are here. And I'm sure you are in the rest of the country as well as temperatures change. So great to have the prairies in the West with us today. And let's look at the next one. I think we're getting into age of children. Yes. So, and indicate more than once if you've got many children, what age bracket best fits for who you have, so that I can focus on what those ages are as we continue our conversations. Our guides, the programs that I mentioned with Kids of Stress 2 and Stress Lessons, we have guides that are attached to them that you can download for a cost of $25. They are self-explanatory with activities that you could do with your children. They are ones that our school personnel bring into the school and do in classrooms or do in small groups and deliver it with lots of strategies and background information about supporting our children to develop their stress management knowledge, with building up what their stressors are and helping to be aware of it, and the signs and symptoms and strategies. So we're going to get into some of that. So most of you have 6 to 12-year-olds and others on either side. Great. I think that's it for our polls. Is that correct, Victoria? We'll move on to the next slide. There's no more. Oh, plans for school. Right. Let's bring up the next one. Thanks. So we want to know whether your children are going in person to school or whether they're going virtually. I know here in Toronto, people have had a choice, and I just heard a statistic that I guess 14% are doing virtual and 86% are going back to school. And the nice thing when we have choice, that can help to manage our stress. The more choice we can bring into our lives, it gives us control, and it can help to reduce that stress. So that's one aspect of what being able to choose where your children want to be. So most of you, 95%, are going in person, and a handful are going virtually. Okay, let's continue on. Thanks, Victoria. So in this time together, we're going to look at some supports for your children with that transition back to school in a couple of weeks, and how stress can impact our children and youth. And we'll get into some aspects of that, and then looking at strategies so that you can walk away tonight with some ideas about what you can bring into your homes tomorrow or tonight. This may be how you feel. The look may be back to the 80s or 70s in terms of hairstyles and outfits, but the look of whether you're starting school in person or online, or you're doing homeschooling with your children, this may be you. And whatever you are feeling, that is you and who you are. Maybe you're excited, maybe you're feeling this way, but to be aware that you own whatever it is and that you are the experts in your life of how you move forward in these next weeks. You will be getting a recording, so those of you who want to share can certainly share this information, and you will be getting that recording after tonight. So most important to start with is taking care of you. We as parents, we are the role model. Our children pick up on what we are feeling. So when we're feeling anxious, they too can pick up on that anxiety. So the more that we can be a role model to calm ourselves and to be that place of maybe being the duck pedaling underneath fast, but being calm on the surface, that can be a really helpful strategy for our children. So add to the chat any thoughts that you might have that help you to take care of yourself. You as a network of parents and educators here tonight have your own thoughts. This is just a handful. That importance of getting sleep. And we know that getting sleep, a good night's sleep starts about an hour before we actually want to fall asleep, turning off our devices so that we don't get that blue light from our computers or from our phones, hearing things on the news that might be disturbing. It may not be a good idea to be able to listen to that, but finding ways, what food you eat. I know I can't eat chocolate later in the day, but I love chocolate. So being able to monitor that, finding out what foods you are good to eat or not, getting that exercise. So focusing on getting enough sleep for yourself, and that's individualized. Looking at the tasks that you can do, that you could be your A list, your B list, your C list. What A list? What do I have to do right today, right now? What is my B list? Perhaps it could wait for a few days. And what is my C list? When it happens, that's okay. Because that can be that place that sometimes we can put things in the parking lot, that C list. I can just park it over there. I don't need to worry about it right now. But that can help to bring calm. That physical well-being, whether it be what you eat, whether it be getting that exercise. And we do know more research is showing the value of nature, being outside, fresh air, looking at nature. And that even can be from inside looking out, but at flowers, at the green, can help to bring us that calm feeling. Those boundaries, those of you who are maybe working from home, as many still are, that place of the boundary of what's work and what's not. And that will shift for you, I hope, in the fall as children are going back to school more. But being able to look at what can you do to take care of yourself when you're in that work mode versus that non-work mode. Maybe it is, changing your clothes. Maybe it is putting on the music. I saw somebody loves music to take care of themselves, or having that chamomile tea, finding those ways that work for you. That place of planning ahead. And this can be a great one as we're planning for the fall. What can you do now so that you can take care of yourself when school begins, when things aren't quite as normal as maybe they've been over the summer? Maybe you put some casseroles in the freezer. Maybe you make sure that you have a big supply of food so you don't have to worry about what comes in. But what can you plan ahead for so that those first weeks, which we anticipate will be an adjustment, and as any transition is, as any return to school is, but this we know is quite different. So let's not take that away, but we know transitions are a change. So looking at how can you remind yourself of what you are thankful for. We know that gratitude, whether it be small things, big things, help us to be able to produce more endorphins, which help to calm us, which help us to feel good. And that place of a strong support system. Maybe there's other parents, maybe there's your children's friends, and you can connect with the parents and how you can learn from each other and come up with ideas. All of that can help you. So bringing it into your life, I see lots of ideas of what people have started to do. Great idea about starting early bedtime now for the whole family. You are bringing yourself into that too, so that your new routine, and it can take a week or more. So now's a good time to bring in some of those strategies of what will be the routine. We know our children need routine. In fact, some of the research I was reading is that for our 6 to 9-year-olds, they've had a bigger effect with the anxiety through COVID. And some of the thoughts are because our younger children are much more connected to routine. So building that in is important. And that may be why it's been more difficult over these months, because they haven't had the routine that they've been used to. Scheduling that downtime, that gives you a chance just to calm and be able to show our children too, it's okay to say, no, I don't want to do it. Yep, I'm just going to take my own time right now. We don't have to always be so busy. Okay, let's move on. Keep adding your thoughts about what your way of relaxing is. I'm not going to watch this video now. It is in our resources, but just in the interest of time, stressstrategies.ca is for us as adults. It allows us to find ways to identify what our stressor is, and then look at our signs and symptoms about what we're feeling, and then develop strategies that we can do. And that goes for all of us. But what Stress Strategies does is it gives us an opportunity to create a blueprint. So you can identify, maybe it's parenting, maybe it's job, maybe it's burnout, maybe it's health, and you go to that place, and then people who have had real life situations share what helped them to get through that. We don't have COVID on Stress Strategies. That maybe is a future plan, but certainly lots of these other ideas certainly can help us in these moments. Okay, so let's look at what we can do as parents to support our children, to support our growing teenagers, as some of you have. We really need to create that caring relationship. So much research shows that by having a consistent caring relationship, and you as a parent are vital for that, and our educators and teachers, as you're going back into the classroom, putting your energy into creating that relationship, building that trust, connecting with those young people, knowing their names, hearing from them their perspective of maybe what it is that's bothering them about coming back, what it is that excites them about coming back, and taking that time and building that network within the environment of the classroom, building that conversation within your homes. If you have more than one child, they'll be coming from it from different perspectives, but you taking moments. I always say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and button up that mouth and just listen. That place we just focused on, taking care of you, is really important. And another big one is acknowledging what you own in this change to the fall and what your child owns. And that can be very different. And you may feel, oh, they're going back and what a change. And they may be coming from the place of feeling really excited. So we need to step back and say, okay, I own this, that I may be worried, or I may be excited and they're worried, that may be at a disconnect. But keeping that to yourselves can be valuable, and hearing it just from the child's perspective. Because what we're experiencing as parents, you know, in terms of news about what we're following, may be very different than what the children understand the situation to be. So being cognizant of what do I own and what does my child own, and let me focus on what the child owns when I'm with my child as I foster that parent-child relationship. Let me deal what I own, perhaps when I'm talking with a friend or a partner, or looking at how I can manage through this time. So that transition to school, your life is a story of transition. You are always leaving one chapter behind while moving on to the next. That goes for us as adults, that goes for our young children as they anticipate what September 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever be the first day for you, what it looks like. Transition is part of life. From infancy up to our last breath, there are changes going on. And we know from a research perspective, transitions can be stressful. Why are they stressful? Because we don't know what lies ahead. That uncertainty is what makes it stressful. Whereas if we have certainty in our lives, it decreases the stress. So the more certainty you can bring into your life and into your children's life over these next days and weeks, the better. So what is it that they could choose for what they're going to wear the first day of school? What is it that they want for their snacks or for their lunch? What is it that is important to them of who they want to connect with before they go to school? Giving them opportunities to choose of what might make it the best day possible when they start and in those days that follow. Perhaps going back to what has been helpful in past years when they went back to school. I know that's quite different for those of you, and I know we had a question, and thank you everyone for your questions that you brought in. That's been helpful to frame the workshop today. What do you do about the kindergarten child who's never been into school? And that is different. But perhaps it could be that that kindergarten teacher, a kindergarten child may be able to talk to somebody who's maybe in senior kindergarten or somebody in grade 1 and be able to share what their first day was like or what kindergarten is all about. And so that they can get that perspective from somebody who's closer to their age. And it also can be hearing it from the child's perspective. What do you think? What do you imagine? Imagination is a big one for our young children. What do you imagine that first day of school might be like? Okay, what can we do to bring some of that imagination into real life? And that's where you'll have to shape it, because some things, you know, to bring a giraffe from the zoo into the classroom, and I want that as my place. Obviously, that's not possible, but finding how the children can have a say in what they think their day might be. You can change, you can share what you recall from your first day of kindergarten. I know I can look back to my day of kindergarten and I had show and tell, and I took a little rabbit that was my show and tell. And I have a fond memory of that, but you know, we can pick back to our memory for some of us. So having those conversations. So let's look at transition. It's there for all of us as we deal with the next days. So I ask you, as you look forward, to share in the chat, what are 3 things your children have learned to include in their life moving forward? What from the past year and a half, maybe from the past 6 months, what have they taken from that time that they want to hold on to that's important to them? Thoughts and ideas are all welcome. I look at it and I think that, yes, that place of friends, and that can be where they've noticed my friends aren't with me all the time, and they've really missed that. So that craving to be in person and with their friends really is what can bring excitement for going back to school. Somebody asked the question, what about my child who doesn't really like school? But maybe that can be a place of what is it about school that they've missed over this time that brings it. Maybe it is that they can have that place of being able to be out in the schoolyard and play. That's not for everybody to be out there. And I appreciate that that may be a concern for some. Being mindful of those feelings and emotions, more emotions for us as adults and for our children have absolutely percolated. And maybe there's been those conversations. That place of independence, our children probably have had to do more around the home as you've been probably managing, you know, schooling and maybe working from home. And how do you make this happen? And maybe your children have had to, you know, make dinner, even if it is a peanut butter sandwich, but that gives them some independence. Looking at what they need and how to ask for it, a big skill that can come from what this time has been as they're learning how to be online. And now that's going to change with being back at school, but that's a skill that they can bring into their classroom. And if they're concerned about coming back, refreshing their mind about the advocacy that they've been able to do while being at home, because they had to ask, maybe they had to ask how to use the different aspects of virtual learning. So that place, I hear too, that open and honest communication that children have been able to express themselves. And that's going to be really important. And, you know, if I was to give some information to those educators on the line, it would be to take your time to build that safe and healthy environment in the classroom over those days. It doesn't happen right away. And we know from our Youth Advisory Council that our young people said, I hope the adults in our life will understand that we're not going to kick right back into how it used to be, even though the teachers may be doing that. It's going to take us time. We need time to learn about writing tests again in person. And so as educators, to give that time, we need to have our mental health in a good place before we can learn. And I know we've been asked that question, but what about the lagging of the learning? And yes, there has been the lagging of the learning because of the different ways of doing it. That will come back, and maybe it will take a little longer, but everybody's in the same place. So being able to find those ways to have that mental health, to build that kindness. I've seen it, that sharing hope and kindness to the world. I mean, that can start within the environment, within the classroom, and being able to be kind to each other and hear different children's perspectives, just as it's gone on over these months, it's going to happen in the classroom. Some will be excited, some may not be, having children reach out to others to support about how they can cope. So that's where those first days will be really important. Enjoying that moment and being able to get through bouncing back from a challenging situation. That's all about resiliency. Thanks for sharing that. Really, we have to be in a struggle in order to really show that we can manage, that we can get through. So lots of great ideas here. Thank you so much for sharing all these. We're going to move on just in the interest of time, but certainly add as you want so you learn from each other. We have a network here of people that are all experiencing that back to school and transition. So building certainty wherever we can possibly do it. I've mentioned that as being important as a component of why transitions can be stressful. So having those conversations with your children, what is likely to happen when you return? What is still unknown? And, you know, we know with the news, the numbers going up with Delta, that is an unknown. And I know I've also been asked in a recent webinar, but how, you know, we're focusing on going back, but what happens if we end up going virtual? I firmly believe we have to hold on to hope. Optimism gives us an ability to cope, and looking at that place of we are going back. And if things change, we've managed before. So there's nothing that's going to say we can't manage another time. But let's hold on to, somebody mentioned sharing the moment. Let's hold on to the moments that we have and going back. And so there may be some unknowns that we don't know, but let's hold on to what's likely to happen when we go back. So if there's any certainties and unknowns that you want to share, bring them into the chat and we can comment about them if this is an area that you want to spend more time. Let's continue to go on as people are adding as they want. The worries and fears, name it to tame it. In the psychological language, there is this term, name it to tame it. There's also one, if we resist, it persists. So let's name it about what your children might say their worries are with returning to school. And I ask you again to share in the chat. I know with the questions we received, some came up, a question came up about the worry of being in a classroom and we wear our mask, but what about if I can't be 2 meters apart? What about when I have to eat? And so how to bring some control for that young person, having some conversations before you get into that reality in the classroom. You can be role playing at home to have those conversations and think of some ideas. You know, maybe putting your food under, pull your mask out and put your food underneath it to eat it. Maybe turning away from the person so that you're not looking directly at them. Maybe stepping back and so that you do create that 2 meters. Those are only a few. Children are so creative with what they can come up with. And so asking the children, and we talk about something called the what if, which is one of the strategies. You can go onto our website under the parent section in the grade, in the age 4 to 13, and it's got all these different toolbox strategies. What if allows you to, what if you're standing a meter away and you're wanting to eat, what can you do? And you can brainstorm all possibilities before it actually happens. So encouraging your children to name it and then have those conversations and being able to talk about it, maybe being able to have another friend of theirs that they can also have conversations. If I'm not sure if you know who's in your classrooms yet. I know it used to be that you didn't find out till the first day of class. Maybe it's changed this year. I'm not familiar with that intricacy. Absolutely, I'm hearing one of the fears, the COVID numbers will go up. And that's a very real fear. We all are living that. We don't know. It's an unknown. We do the best we can. Again, what I control, I can wear my mask, I can keep my distance, I can wash my hands. So we do what we can. And we've managed it before. We will be able to find those ways. Let's move on. And certainly if more ideas come up, please add them. So this is really sort of a summary slide before we get into some more strategies and ideas that I wanted to look at of ways that you can build that place of transition. I also would encourage you, if you've got any ideas of strategies that you would recommend to support our children or youth in this transition, please do add them to the chat. You have lots of experience as a parent, as an educator, and will have ideas that maybe haven't been mentioned. I draw on your expertise. You are the experts in this role with your young children and youth. So I've mentioned about building certainty where you can. And the other really important one, the younger, the more important it is, but certainly that place of safety. So finding ways that our children and youth can feel safe. That can be things I've mentioned, like we are the givens around COVID. That can be safety of knowing where my locker is, where I'm sitting. What do I do if I have to go to the bathroom for that, kindergarten class where the child's new to it and doesn't know the routines? Asking the children, what makes you feel safe? This can be something that comes about before school starts and you could share it with the teacher. Asking the class, if you're an educator during those first day or so, what would make this classroom safe for you? What do you need and want? Children have their ideas. Looking at that place of expectations. We all have expectations. We need to look at what's realistic and what can we bring into this situation. We know that it will be a shift from what it's been in other returns to school, but there will be lots that will bring similarities to how it has been. So looking at that place of how do I create safety? How do I hear it from the child's perspective? What can I do to be clear on what those expectations can be? I mean, maybe it is, I expect you, to put all your belongings, on your hook or in your locker. I expect you to be at your desk. I expect you to be, listening when I'm speaking. That can be from an educator's perspective. Those can be conversations that parents can have with children about maybe what is expected of them. And certainly that depends on whether you're dealing with a JK or whether you're in the high school ages, but really important. Looking at the strengths from the past, that place for the children that have been at school before, what did they draw on that gave them skills during transitions? That may not be just at school, that may be when they went to childcare, that may be, knowing that they could go to somebody to ask a question, knowing that they had something in their knapsack that was a comfort for them. But building on those strengths, maybe it is that organization. And maybe for those of you who have children that are really organized, great. I had ones that weren't as organized. We had our little card and our checkoffs of what had to be in the knapsack the night before. And that really helped to build confidence in the children. So building that place of strengths. That place of the voice in our head, we can be thinking of, I'm not capable, I can't do this, I'm not going to get through this time. But shift that voice to, I've done it before, I'm going to be okay. I know what it's like. I've gone into, some of your children may have been at camp this summer, and what that transition was like for them and what they could bring into this situation when they go to school. Building that growth mindset that I'm going to be okay, I'm going to get through this. And that's where we as adults can help to role model that. And the research shows that if we speak about I am capable, that can make a difference. I commented about differentiating what the parent owns and what the child owns. So I really encourage that. We're human. We have our fears. We have our concerns. We have our excitement. And it may be similar. It may be different. Planning ahead. We touched on that place of what can you do now around clothes and what can we do about, waking up early. That place of maybe you can arrange some play times. Maybe you can go to the school and be in the schoolyard, and maybe there'll be other children there that your children can connect with. Maybe you can look at what it is that are the routines that have been in school before, looking at maybe what might be a change in the routines. Maybe when children come, they have to have their temperature taken. I'm not sure what all that is going to be, but I hope there may be opportunities that you can know some of the routines before. Just going to take a moment. I see some thoughts that have come. So I just want to, writing down the fears, writing them down, drawing them, depending upon the verbalness of a child, just to be able to get it out. Sometimes it can be role playing. Maybe, you be a child and they be the adult and they tell you what the circumstances is. Maybe it can be with siblings being able to do that. Important to let the children know that, and youth, teenagers as well, that you're there for them, that you want to hear it from them, but we don't want to we want to build excitement that it's a new school year and you're going to be back with others, and what will it be? What are we looking forward to? And build that optimism. See how things have changed and what strategies can be used to help ease those anxieties. And that is all about that verbal and that talking to help it out. Students in the last year, being mindful of children who may not be aware of what the rules are. Yes, so some children, maybe those of you who had the choice of home or at school, there may be that place that the young people that have been in school can be mentors, can be leaders, that can be really helpful, and that will help others. And that's something as an educator, being aware of who those people might be a great friend in guiding their peers who have been online transition. Great point. At our school board, we have set up scheduled in-person visits for students so they can get to know who their teacher will be, where their class will be located. So that is fabulous. That helps to ease that uncertainty. I know where I'm going. I know who my teacher is going to be. And those are very helpful strategies for a virtual school tour in an effort to ease any fears. So especially for those young people who are, perhaps going into grade 1, going into grade 7, going into grade 9 as those transitional years in a new school. Someone being all virtual and transitioning back. Sorry, there's a question in the Q&A. Let me, how I help my children who are in virtual only in transition without anxiety else getting used to the new schedule. That is a transition, and many have been in virtual learning only. And so that acknowledgement that it is different and asking our young people, what is it that is different for you from virtual to in-person? What is it that would make it helpful? The big thing that our young people have missed out on is the social, being here online and me looking at a blank slate, not seeing all of you. I miss that being in person. It's magnified for our young people because they are in that developmental age and stage, whether it be kindergarten or high school students that are meant to be social. So that young person that's been in the virtual setting for the length of time, how to connect them. Are there people like this other school that is connecting teacher and student? Are there ways that your student, your young person might be able to connect with others? Just having one or two that they know are going to be in their class and connecting prior to school can make a big safety for them. So maybe I would encourage that. Moving on, planning ahead, we talked about that, looking at what is essential and what is not. So that place of trying to settle in, that place about what might the day look like, but maybe that place at the end of the day, maybe you have a celebration that, you have that we're going to play a game before dinner at the end of the day. Maybe we're going to have games night after dinner. Let's have your favorite meal for dinner. So that can help to get through the day because they have something to look forward to. And because we know that that separation for the younger children especially will be significant. So that's where doing some of that ahead of time, maybe where you do separate more from your those that have the younger children, so that you have that ability for them to gain that confidence that they can separate. Okay. Looking at, what involvement can you have in the school? That you can have that place that you can look at what really is essential. I mean, that place of homework and all the work related may not be as essential in those first days. We want our children to settle in and to feel comfortable. Looking at those skills to be practiced. So that place I've mentioned about meeting with other children, so those social skills can be enhanced. Looking at, and we're going to get into some of this, relaxation skills, breathing, stretching, looking at that place for high school students and middle school where writing tests, they need practice. They haven't done it in the same way in person with somebody beside them. So maybe it's starting with encouraging your teachers, could they just have tiny quizzes that aren't marked, that just give that confidence back to the children to be able to feel that they can do it. And that place that, you start with what I call chunking, little pieces, like your kids best. What are the areas that they need to build their skills? Building that routine we've touched on. doing as much as you can now. And, you know, for some, maybe it's having the writing it down, maybe it's having pictures, maybe for the older high school and middle school, having them write it out. What is it that they need? Maybe it is that they talk to others to get ideas about what might that routine look like. Certainly part of all of this is what are the supplies they need. I know all the big stores are saying there's going to be an overload of all the supplies that people buy because we weren't able to do it last year. Anticipating some anxiety. There will be an adjustment. Anxiety isn't all bad. That's what helps us to work it through and say, I can do it. And some will be more prone to feeling that anxiety about going back. They likely were ones that also were feeling it 3 years ago, if they're of that age group that they were going back to school, because it is a change. So finding those ways to help them calm down, and we're going to get to that. Modeling that calm behavior yourself. What is it that you can do if you're feeling it? Go and look out the window, doing that deep breathing, raising your shoulders up and down to relax those muscles. That can help to show them that you are calm. Let's look at our next slide as we continue to go on. That building friendships. And I mentioned that that really is a core place that has been missing for all of our children and youth. And so for some, it may be that role playing. You can do it with yourself and your children, whatever age be that young person or youth. It could be with a sibling, helping them connect with others so that they can practice it. Maybe it has to be still done virtually. Maybe it can be that you're out at the park, or maybe you're in the schoolyard. So it brings that transition to the school. Those conversations about what are you looking forward to? What are you worried about? What would make it feel safe for you? What is the most exciting thing? What is it that you're taking with you from the learning that you've had over these months? That sibling interaction, maybe there's ways that the siblings, if they're at the same school, can support each other at recess to touch base. Looking at that imaginary play for our young children, they come up with ideas, that imagination, what helps them. And the affirmation cards. Our next slide shows these affirmation cards that we've developed at Strong Minds, Strong Kids. They're available online, but they allow our children to speak. They can color these in. They have questions on them. You can interact with them. You know, I have that courage, and have them talk about it, what I'm thankful for. I am positive and what I'm positive about. I love myself. I am mindful of what I'm doing and what that voices in my head and how to be calm. So these can be easy, print them off, cut them up, draw. The kids can draw on them. There's places, you know, the different animals that they can color them. There's questions on it that can enhance your conversation. So I encourage you to go to the website to get these affirmation cards. Okay, let's move on into some of our strategies. Just want to watch my time here. Okay, so let's start with our first one. If we could look at that place of building the resilience. So one of our strategies really is all of these things incorporated, lots of which I've mentioned, but just want to kind of pull it together, is helping our young people figure it out themselves. Like if we give them time, when I'm in a calm place, that I give them time to figure it out. So rather than me telling them what to do, give them time. That gives them a chance to think about it. We know when we're stressed, our amygdala kind of hijacks us and holds us there. And so if we can think about it, it helps to calm us down. And so figuring it out helps us to think about it. Asking for help. That's where you can be there. Having our children and youth be able to ask, creating that environment that they can ask for help. But if we're being asked, we want to make sure that we put it back. What do you want help with? Rather than they ask for help. Well, you can do this, do that, do that. No, if we put it back to them, they have to think about it. And in thinking about it, they have to talk about it and express it. And that's where they can come up with their own conclusions, and they can own it if they've done that. Controlling our emotions, talking about it. You know, I'm worried, I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm glad. And encouraging further expression so that there can be that openness. I'm disappointed. What does that mean? And having your children express it, just as you can role model that by expressing it. And the more that we can express our emotions, the more it can help to calm us down, because that amygdala kind of hijacks us in that emotional place. And we know from the work of Dan Siegel, who's done lots around positive psychology, it takes 9 seconds to get to that brain. And so we need to find ways to calm us down, and then we can think about it. That belief that I'm going to be okay. And that's what's helped to get us through so many of these months. And we're in a different place because we do have strategies, and we will get through it. Checking my thoughts to see if they are negative. How do we shift those to bring that positive voice, which produces the endorphins, which makes us feel better? And then that place of belonging and have a purpose. And so giving our young people roles at home and our youth of what they can do in terms of responsibilities around the home. I'm sure you've been doing lots of that to be able to survive through this with everybody living under the same roof. But doing that in the classroom and giving roles to each student to give them that place of feeling purposeful, that can help to improve their resiliency. I see lots happening here. I'll let the conversations going, but the calming jar, that's a great idea. Okay, let's look at some strategies. So progressive muscle relaxation, we all have it within us. So I want you to, sitting where you are, think of your legs. I want you to tighten your legs, squeeze them together, tight, 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 squeeze as hard as you can, and relax them. Now squeeze your arms together against your body, squeeze your legs against your body, relax your legs, relax your arms. Now squeeze your hands as tight as you can, squeeze your arms against your body as tight as you can, your legs as tight as you can. Now relax your legs, relax your arms, relax your hands. We can do this wherever we are. It can be a strategy your children can learn. You can walk them through it. And if they're starting to feel those emotions of really frustrated or angry, or if they're starting to feel that heart rate going up and they're worried, they can do this. And that is our brain having to think to do this. And that can help to calm us down. Let's look at our next one. Sorry, I'm just looking at the question as well. So just to respond to this about, if those of us in the group who may have some anxieties, being aware of it is the first thing. You know that you have your own anxieties about perhaps separate from COVID, but just who you are. And that's a place that we know that there's a physiology going on. There are thoughts. So trying to shift our thoughts to what behavior can I do? So if our thoughts are about, I'm worried I'm going to get COVID, what are the behaviors I can do? I can wear my mask. I can keep my distance. Because the more we can convert our thoughts into behaviors that support us and help us, then that can make a difference. So if anxiety is a concern that some of you are experiencing as these days come, or generally, what is it has helped you before? Maybe it is that shifting your thinking and talking, that self-talk, I'm going to get through this. Maybe it is doing some of this mindfulness breathing, which I'm going to share. Maybe it is getting more physical activity. Maybe it is journaling, but being aware of it is the first step to try to keep it out of projecting it onto your child. And so that place of thinking, what is my child thinking? Asking them, hearing it from their perspective, and trying to keep yours that you deal with in a separate place with an adult. So that place of mindful breathing can really shift our thinking. So I want you to close your eyes. I want you to think of your stomach as a balloon. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Blow up that balloon and out through your mouth. Deep breath in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. One last breath in. Blow up that balloon as big as you can and out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Deep breathing can relax us. We can demonstrate it. We can encourage our children to learn it. They can take that with them wherever they are as they're starting to feel that escalation of feeling you know, maybe that breathing is more shallow or the tenseness in their shoulders. And by doing that, it can bring back to that place of calm that can help them to think more creatively and openly, which is what relaxation allows us to do. And another thing that can help our young people is thinking of their happy place. Where is it that I'm happy, that I'm feeling calm, and taking themselves to that happy place. Okay, let's move on. These are more, you're going to get this, but it's that expansion of our emotions. So encouraging your children to be able to express themselves, our teenagers being able to speak about what their emotions are. Just by talking about it, it can calm us. So this can be an activity that you can do as you're, you know, maybe reading a book for some of your students that or your children that are reading a book. What's the main character? What are the emotions that come out in that? And then be able to expand it. You can expand it as you're speaking. And so this is something that might be helpful. The stress stoplight is more for our younger children, but I find it can be effective regardless of the age. It's exactly what it is. It's a stoplight. You can make it, you can print it off. We have it on our website under the parent section for 4 to 13. The red is when I'm feeling stressed. So talking about what is that you notice within your body. Are you noticing the tightness? Are you noticing the rapid breathing? What are you noticing in your feelings? I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling frustrated. What are you noticing in your mind? I can't think clearly. I feel distracted. I feel forgetful. So being able to notice these different symptoms can help us to be able to say, I'm at the red light. I don't have to describe it all. I just have to say I'm at the red light. And the yellow is I can deal with it. I can do something about it. It's not with us forever. It goes up and down like a roller coaster. I can do the deep breathing. I can think of my happy place. I can shift my thoughts to a positive voice in my head. And that can make a difference to move us to the green light and helping our youth and our children recognize when they are at the green light. That's important for us to notice what it is that's going on, where they're feeling calm, where they're feeling, maybe they've just had a snack and that helps them. Maybe it is that it's a quiet room and it's dim light. So noticing that. So this is a strategy that you can do to be able to express where you're at and to help your children and youth decide, figure it out, become more aware, which is the first step to deal with it. That voice in our head, it's always there with us. What might be that buddy voice that you're okay, you're going to get through it? What's that bully voice? You're so stupid, you can't manage. Let's help them have more of that buddy voice. And this is something you could do with the role playing that you might act out because maybe there's an area that they've expressed as a concern. So again, lots of information on our toolbox strategies that are in our downloadables within our parent section. Continue on, just in the interest of time. Looking at what's in your coping kit. What might our teenagers say they need to have in that knapsack? What are our younger children that would help them cope through these days? What helps them in a general way? You maybe have noticed, maybe they want to have the phone for the older ones. Maybe they want to have a journal to write things in. Maybe they want to have a picture of their pet. Maybe they want to have a favorite snack. But talking about what are some things that they can take with them that will be those comfort measures. That can start now so that you've got it. This is a downloadable that we have that really can walk you through. Am I stressed? Yes or no? If I am, take some breaths. How can I reduce it? And it's got some ideas of how I can reduce it. Maybe I can be more organized. Maybe I can create some boundaries of what I say yes to, what I say no to. And this can be for our middle school and high school students. Looking at what can I cope with? What strategy works? Maybe I need to, step back from a situation. Maybe I need to get some help and ask for some support. Maybe I can change the ways that I'm thinking about it rather than being negative about it. How do I move it to be a positive thinking? Because we know optimism and positive and endorphins and the hormones that are produced can support us. So this is available to you and your young people could have it. So we have all these different programs I mentioned. Kids of Stress 2 is for JK or preschool to grade 6 and stress lessons from grade 7 to 12. Encourage you if it's something that you want to have brought into your schools. We have all the information that can happen. You're going to get the connection at the end to Pamela, who can bring this in to provide training. We do open calls and people can join them. And we have guides that are part of those calls. And you can also download the guides. They all are evidence-based, and it's all about teaching stress management strategies and to build that positive emotional health and that place of prevention. So these are the different aspects of how we can create that, how you can walk through it with a masterclass that you can get the recording, and then the different programs that are available. So I encourage you to go online and you can see what we already have booked. And if that's something, you can register online to be part of it. These are some of the workshops that we have. You're going to get a copy of this recording. So you'll have all these dates in October that you can sign up for. So what have we done? Hopefully you're coming away with some strategies that you can use for yourself and to take to your young people, looking at what are some certainties that you can build into your lives now. Name it to tame it. What is it that are their concerns? Let them express it. Let's talk about it. Those friendships and connections that you can foster before going back to school that can create that comfort level in our children. And then looking at some strategies of relaxation, that emotional vocabulary by expressing what I'm feeling, looking at that stoplight. That can be for any age to be able to express it rather than having to say I'm at the red light, rather than having to go into lots of details. That positive voice in our head. What do you need to have in your coping kit? And that infographics that can walk you through. And that can be helpful for you. It can be helpful for any age group, but it's more targeted. It's part of our grade 9 to 12 program. But all of this is able to be used by any age that it fits. So let's hear from you. We have a survey that I'm going to ask Victoria to please put into the chat. And if you could download that and fill it out when the time's right for you. We love to get your feedback. It's really important to us. It helps to grow our programs to meet your needs. And we listen to them and we revise accordingly. So what are you taking from tonight? Is there anything that will help you to support, that will support you in managing your stress? Or anything that you're taking that you will use with your child, maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Please share with us any ideas that you may have. We love to hear. Certainly, you've got time, which is why we scheduled it now. You've still got a couple of weeks. And if you want more information, I really encourage you to go to our website. We do have resources. As people add, why don't we go to the resources in the interest of time? Victoria, we'll go to the next one, but certainly add your thoughts if you have ones that what you're taking from here. So we have several videos that can be helpful to explain what goes on in the physiology. The What is Stress Anyway is part of our grade 4 to 6, and it talks about what goes on in the body so we can understand it, and it brings out lots of very practical suggestions. We're very much about applying psychology with the research, but the practical application. Those of you with teenagers, that adolescent brain, and looking at how the brain is different. There's also the stressstrategies.ca at the top of this one. More on the next page, the next slide, take us to some articles about building resiliency. We have newsletters that gives all kinds of information, and podcasts for working parent, the brain architect. And I would encourage you, if this is an area, to explore further. But also commend, look at what you've been doing to date. There's so much that you have done to make it through these months. So maybe jot it down. What have you done that's helped to get you through? You've got the skills right there, and then add to it with some of the ideas maybe that were that came out tonight. Some articles on transitions that may be of interest to you. And then all the different downloadable, there's booklets, there's the articles I mentioned, there's the webinars that are part of our very extensive website. So I encourage you to go there. And then lastly, Pamela is our go-to person. Oh, we were going to have a Q&A. We've run out of time, but I've tried to answer all your questions that you sent in. If there are any questions, let's go to the next slide. Pamela is our go-to person. If you've got more questions, please do send them to her. They can be then forwarded to me and I can respond. But I tried to incorporate all the questions that had come in earlier into the presentation. But if some came up after all this. So thank you. You will get through. raise that hand, pat yourself on the back, know that you've gotten this to this point, and there's lots of new excitement in the days ahead, and being back in the classroom and all that that will look like. And you will be successful. And thank you for being part of tonight. Take good care, stay well, and enjoy these last summer days, heat or no heat, depending where you are in the country. And do be in touch if there's more that we can offer you. Thanks so much.